Alberta Premier Danielle Smith reportedly plans to use the Notwithstanding Clause to force through 3 pieces of anti-trans legislation. And it appears her government is trying to do it all hush-hush. According to an internal memo obtained by the Canadian press, Alberta officials are being directed by Smith's office to secretly assemble background information and legal implications related to invoking the clause. The plan is to bring that info back to Cabinet on October 21st, before the legislature resumes sitting 2 days later. And let's be clear, invoking the Notwithstanding Clause is a really big deal, especially when it comes to the rights of trans people in Alberta and just rights and freedoms overall. Last year, Alberta introduced and passed 3 pieces of anti-trans legislation. One related to restrictions on gender-affirming care for minors, another banned trans women and girls from women's sports, and another mandated that schools inform parents if a student chooses to go by a different name or pronouns for gender reasons. All 3 bills passed into law last December, but they quickly faced legal challenges from doctors and LGBTQ+ advocacy groups who argued that the laws violate the charter rights of trans kids in Alberta. The law around gender-affirming care for youth isn't even in effect yet, thanks to a court injunction granted in June. But the Notwithstanding Clause is a way of getting around all of that. The rarely used piece of legislation allows governments to override certain charter rights for up to 5 years. Smith has previously called it a last resort when it comes to these laws. But if Alberta goes through with this, it wouldn't even be the first time a provincial government has invoked the clause to force through legislation impacting trans youth. 2 years ago, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe invoked the clause and even recalled his legislature early in order to force through his version of a school pronoun policy amidst legal challenges and concerns that it violated the rights of trans kids. And we can't forget that in all of this. In both Saskatchewan and now Alberta, this is an instance of a government actively pushing aside trans kids' rights to pass their legislation. And I'm not exaggerating, it's literally what the clause says. It's about superseding rights. And it sounds like legal mumbo jumbo, but invoking the clause is literally saying we won't consider these rights right now. Back in 2022, when Ontario Premier Doug Ford invoked the clause to prevent education workers from striking, experts raised alarm bells around the precedent it could set for overriding minority rights in Canada. And now we're watching that come to fruition in Alberta.